Have you ever been arrested?
No. Close, but not formally.
Caught. Okay. All right.
Not formally arrested.
Well, I have a warrant out for my arrest right now.
Tell me more.
So, being in the city forever, the PPA is notorious, the Philadelphia Parking Authority, for just doling out tickets. They even had the TV show, Parking Wars, was all about the PPA. And in Philly, they have a much more pragmatic approach. You get your ticket, $36. You don't pay your ticket. They give you some fines and fees. And then you get so many tickets and they boot you, they tow you, car's gone, end of story. Well, now moved in the suburbs a couple of years ago with the family, back my hometown where I grew up, amazing town. I got a parking ticket. I guess back in May, I got a parking ticket that I didn't pay. Forgot about, probably put it in my jacket pocket or something like that, and never thought about it again.
You just found your headphones in your jacket.
I did just
find my
today. I just found my earlier today. I was looking for those headphones for a while, and it was $20 parking ticket, and all of a sudden I got a certified letter from the constable that there's a warrant for my arrest. They just escalate from 0 to 100. It was like, I guess they might have sent me a notice or something that.
They didn't know you're the mayor, though, of the town?
That's informal. And there's no immunity happening. So, yeah, it was I have to pay $165 now. So my $20 parking ticket has gone, because you have all the administrative fees and the court fees and everything else. You got to pay. You got to pay everybody.
You got to be able to pay that?
I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's a tough month.
It's no coffees for a month, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. So I have to dial back the espresso a little bit. But yeah. So I'm a fugitive.
That is intense. I mean, I think it sort of reminds me of some of our other legal challenges, which I think are sort of interest from a business perspective, because we've been sued 3 times and we've survived them all. But I think a lot of people don't realize, your parking ticket's a little bit of an exception. But I think a lot of people don't realize that in business, there are so many different ways that people can come at you. And as our previous venture, United by Blue, grew, we became more and more visible, and we were getting hit.
A target.
We were a target.
I mean, all businesses in some sense, I think, are a target to lawsuits. I like to think in like my la la land, because I just can't imagine suing somebody for something trivial or something that is intentionally just trying to exploit the system, which
Totally. I mean, that's what all of our lawsuits were. I mean, let's just go over them. So we got sued years ago for somebody tripping and falling over our sidewalk outside of our store at night, after hours. We weren't even open. In the city of brotherly love, the sidewalk is your responsibility, whether or not you're a tenant or you own the building. And so we got sued for that. She wanted $1 million. She said she lost life's pleasures.
She didn't even live here. She was
in Puerto Rico. She was Puerto Rico.
Yeah, she lived in Puerto Rico, was visiting on vacation to Philadelphia, or maybe the vacation was
to go to a liberal city where they could sue and get money. Yeah,
who knows?
Very well could be. I mean, Philadelphia is definitely not.
But I mean, this was probably like 2014, and the business was hardly $1 million business, and she was suing us for $1 million.
Oh, it was impossible. I mean, we were fortunate that something like that did fall under general liability, which not all of our cases did, actually. So the fact that it was general liability did mean that it went to insurance. I got deposed, so I had to go into Johnny Slick's lawyer office. The guy he was like our age. We were younger then, but he was probably like maybe 5 years older, probably in his 30s, pinstripe suit, slicked back hair, quintessential what you would think in a Philly lawyer's office. And he showed me pictures of the sidewalk from all different angles. He asked me questions if I recognized it, if I knew about that little like lip in the sidewalk. Anybody that's been in Philadelphia,
oh my gosh,
come on, the sidewalks all have lips, the unevenness, the broken.
For goodness sake, we were in Old City. We have cobblestone streets around the corner from us. I mean, Quarry Street, right around the corner from where the store was, is cobblestone.
Exactly. So, I mean, there's really no. It was comical. I remember going through that hour plus deposition, answering questions about the sidewalk and like, what we were going, like what our thoughts were on it, if we knew about it. And basically it went on and on. The questions were like all convoluted just to go through the process of being able to then obviously present it and try to settle. And ultimately all of these cases, these ambulance chasers, because that's what that law firm was, is purposely going after a settlement. They will go to court if they feel like there's an opportunity, but that's not their intention. So the insurance company assigned a lawyer on our end. Remember his name was Frank. And Frank and I sat in that deposition, and then ultimately they settled. The insurance company settled for $300,000+.
That is insane to think that she got that much money.
Now she probably didn't get much of that.
Yeah,
I
they
bet you
probably
the lawyer
took 50% of that,
if
at
not
least.
more.
Yeah.
But she definitely made money.
Yep.
And the fact that it was because she tripped on a sidewalk, her own dumbass fault.
Yeah, and if she even tripped, but yeah, that's besides
we didn't have
the point.
We
have no cameras,
yeah.
so there's no
at the time. Yeah,
yeah,
and so it was definitely debatable all around. So that was the first one. That was our first eye-opening experience with getting sued. Do you remember what the second one was?
The second was our website, wasn't it?
Yeah, the blind person.
Yes. So this was like early in. I mean, we had been on Shopify. We launched a new website. E-commerce was starting to become a bigger piece of what we were doing, but it was still small. I mean,
this was 20. It was starting. No, it was starting. I remember this was probably because we were sending out catalogs at the time. I remember the visibility of our brand was getting out there more.
Yeah.
This was 2019, I think.
Okay. All right. We still weren't. Yeah, you're right. So it was. We were going into a pretty big e-commerce year then.
It's probably doing like $5-6 million on e-commerce.
You're right.
At that time.
With more visibility, once again, we become a bigger target. And in that time period, the newest form of ambulance chasing was suing people for their websites not being compliant with the ADA,
the American Disabilities Act,
which meant that we were sued by somebody who was vision impaired,
blind,
could not read or see our website. How the hell was I supposed to know? Because the ecom was supposed to be my thing. I had no idea that we had to have something. I get it. I understand. Like, yes, do I want to be accessible? Yes, just like I want my stores to be accessible.
Exactly. We're not against the ADA.
Not at all. But the fact that out of nowhere, somebody can sue me because they can't see my website. I didn't think I was building a website for blind people. Like I never crossed my mind. If I wanted to, then I would have been more thoughtful about that. And yeah, maybe it opened up my eyes, no pun intended, to what you have to do. But whoever knew that was even a thing, that you could be sued for
it's ridiculous
having a website that somebody who's vision impaired can't see. So then we spent, I don't know how that one paid out.
I can tell you. I'm going to look at my email records.
I think it was low. I don't think he got much money. I want to say it was sub $10,000.
No, it was low because what happened was the pandemic hit. And the pandemic hit, we were actually going through 2 different lawsuits at the time, because right before the pandemic, probably at the end of 2019. So I think the ADA case was potentially even like 2018, beginning of 2019. Then it went into sort of like the process where it was going through like back and forth. The thing about the ADA case was that it wasn't covered by our insurance. And so we were stringing it along because we had no real good outcome for that. Like
the initial request was
hundreds of thousands of dollars,
a couple $100,000,
few $100,000.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening was we fortunately had that string on, and then the pandemic came, and I took advantage of what was happening in the retail world to quickly settle that. And so I basically offered out a very small amount. I think I said the business is going under, which we thought it might. And I said, $2,000 or like, I gave actually, I remember this. I gave an odd number. I was like, the most I can afford is $1,692.
Yep.
Some like very, very pinpointed number because it seemed thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's like a real number.
That's a negotiation tactic, which people can use or not. But like the idea being that like, then it was like, oh shit, they don't have the money. And so we did end up settling for probably around $7,500.
Yeah, I remember it being like $7,000.
Yeah. And so the same thing happened then.
But then we had to spend, we probably spent more than $7,000 during and after that following year on making
ADA
our
compliance.
site
Yeah, we became
accessible.
ADA compliant.
Yeah. Because once again, it's like, I'm not opposed to it, but the fact that you can sue me for it is crazy, especially for such a small business. Think about all of the websites that exist and all the e-commerce sites.
I think it's actually shameful. To be honest, it's shameful because it was, if you looked at the law firm that was suing us, they were that was their case. That is what they do. Mm-hmm. And
it's predatory.
That person that was actually suing was the same person on dozens of other cases with the same law firm.
Yep.
How does that, that's just like not okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's not okay.
It doesn't make it's not right.
It's not right. I think you want to change things. You don't use predatory law practices to change things in this world. Mm-hmm. What you do is you actually, you create more just logical policy, because I think the idea that you can construe a law that is meant to protect the disabled, which makes a lot of sense. I believe in it completely. And then you construe it into your own definition of what that means. And it's not like Congress passed a law that said websites have to be compliant. They passed the ADA, and then lawyers have taken these things and made it into what they want to use to get money. It's a money game.
Yeah, it's the downsides of our justice system and our capitalist system.
Yeah.
It's when they're perverted in that way and used for things like that.
So the other one that is used exactly like that is our wonderful state of California and Prop 65.
Oh, yes.
So Proposition 65 is, everybody knows it, whether or not they're in California or not. You see all the labels probably on this chair that we're sitting on.
Yeah, just if you haven't ever seen a Prop 65 label before, just go out and look for one. It is there.
Oh, you'll find it. Just look at any product at any store. Go to Target, Walmart.
Next thing you buy off of Amazon, you look at it, it's going to have a Prop 65 label.
And Prop 65 basically says, this is known to the state of California to potentially cause cancer, in short. And so essentially everything can cause cancer. So everything, and that's an exaggeration, but a large amount of things. And it doesn't mean that you can't sell it. So that's the thing about Prop 65 is you have to disclose it. It's a disclosure requirement. And only California. And you can sell things elsewhere without that label, but because we live in a United States, and everything's like, you're not going to like exclude. You could exclude selling to California, but so most things just get the Prop 65 label. Probably a lot of things that don't even have a chance of causing cancer just to protect themselves, such as our little ditty bag. We had a little ditty bag that we were selling to backcountry.com. And backcountry.com was then selling it to California. We were selling it on our own website. People could have gotten it. But this one in particular, because they sued both backcountry.com and us for a piece of plastic on the actual ditty bag, on the outside of it, or on the inside pocket, essentially, that they tested, and they said it had something in it, which most plastics do. I think even plastic water bottles probably have stuff that can cause cancer, which is a whole nother topic that is becoming a bigger and bigger conversation as well. And we got slapped with Prop 65. And I forget what the total amount that they were suing us for. But again, this was not covered in insurance, which was surprising to me.
Why wasn't that one covered?
Great question. I don't remember. Prop 65 and ADA were both not covered, maybe because it seems like they are something that
they fell outside the lines of general liability for whatever reason.
Yeah, general liability was the guy tripped or the girl tripped and she got covered, but not the other thing. So, but fortunately, this happened right at the beginning of COVID, and it was tested and the case was served prior to COVID, and then COVID struck, and I used the same strategy, and I got a payment plan. I think we paid under $10,000 as well for that. So those could have gone a lot differently if COVID didn't happen, because I don't really think we could have got such a low payment, but they were willing to settle. So those were our three cases.
Yeah. So it was just insane to think that we had, if you were to think about what those suits would have totaled at, like what the ask was for all three of those lawsuits, we're talking about millions of dollars that we were sued for over the course of United by Blue.
For genuinely, and I don't want to make this like a sob story, but genuinely nothing that we did wrong.
Yeah.
Like I really feel like law exists to serve justice and to right wrongs. And there's plenty of ways and reasons to use the legal system when things are maliciously done, but by no means was United by Blue in any of those situations malicious. And so it is sort of scary to think that businesses are targets like that. And it's a little bit demoralizing.
Especially of any scale. Because the lawsuit can come at a business and the number that they're suing for can be greater than the size of the entire business. The chance of them ever getting a payout is unlikely, but like that's what is even more disheartening about it, is that you put companies out of business with some of these lawsuits.
So I'm going to end on this one, which is more recently. Obviously, we're doing different businesses now, and we are probably a lot more conscious of things. And I think, both in terms of insurance and just like risk mitigation and things like that, like you've done a great job with FairX, making sure that that's like super compliant. It's
spending way too much money on
ton of money.
Types of insurance I didn't even know existed.
Cyber insurance, you name it.
Cybers, umbrella policies, and policies for this and that to cover all the bases. Because we do deal with protected health information. So
right. So you have a lot of reasons to take that really seriously. So I don't want to discount the fact that, there's a lot of reasons to be very careful when it comes to insurance and just general risk management is super important in business. For me, hospitality businesses and everything like that, we obviously have general liability and all of that's covered. I went through, though, to my own fault, and this is where I'll fall on my sword a little bit at the end, as a warning tale of what not to mess around with, which is during the craziness of transitioning out of United by Blue, getting essentially fired as CEO and everything like that, there was a couple quarters of taxes for specifically the hospitality business that were messed up. The tax filings were messed up. And then we moved, and the mail, and there was just a lot of, again, not making excuses, but.
And also you didn't have somebody managing it.
We didn't. I think that's the biggest thing.
Trying to do it yourself.
I think that's the biggest thing. Trying to do tax filings ourselves was definitely a big issue. And so I missed it. And then we got served. So talking about your parking tickets, I got a case, Pennsylvania versus Brian Linton, about unpaid taxes. And that was really an eye-opening moment for me as a business owner about how you really need to be on top of that. Because I think for 15 years, like the idea that, we had more of a team structure around things. Yep. So like there was, I wouldn't say we weren't doing a great job with all of that, but we were doing a decent job. We were always filing and paying and things like that. This situation was just a totally gap in oversight that ended up resulting in me going to court for the first time and going in front of a judge.
Did you wear a suit?
I wore
tie.
No, I did not, and I probably should have, because my lawyer showed up, and it was the weirdest thing. The room was like similar to, it was a little bit bigger than this podcast room, and small town, right in the Poconos, small town courthouse, like not anything you would think, like literally, like it felt like a strip mall in the back of like a Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
And so I went through that process. We paid everything. We paid some penalties. It wasn't a big amount of money either. It wasn't because we didn't want to pay the money or didn't have the money. It was just simply compliance. And it was a great experience though, because it really showed me how to navigate those things. So I had a lawyer. First time I had to actually like engage a lawyer for something like that. And the judge was great. Same last name as my general contractor. Small town, right? It's like probably his uncle. And everything was fine. So it's also not to be afraid of these things. I think maybe that's the main takeaway from this, is like, it is the process of building a business.
Yeah, you can't let those things.
They might trip and fall and lose life pleasures and want $1 million from you, but don't freak out.
Yeah,
you might get sued for something that you didn't do on purpose, like miss a tax filing, and then you didn't see the mail, or you saw it and you were just busy and you didn't have somebody to handle it, like me. It's not the end of the world. Yep. Everything is addressable. Don't commit crimes. Don't be a bad person.
Exactly.
You can build a great business, and you are going to get sued. No matter what you do in this world. I feel like if you're building a business and you're making a name for yourself, there's going to be stuff like this that comes up.
Agreed. And just remember to pay your parking tickets.
Seriously, I'll give you that $165. So let's not get you arrested. All right, that's the pod.
That's it.